Jewish people in America, Jewish Americans, are just having more and more and more challenges. Not only in Israel, but all over the United States, all over the world, really. The Jewish people are a resilient and adaptable group. We're going to talk about that today in our podcast. Why is this violence continuing to happen against Jewish Americans? And what can they do to become safer and more secure in their environment? You're watching and listening to the Safe, Secure 360 podcast. There's safety in numbers.
Lieutenant Robert Henry is an honorably retired law enforcement commander from Houston with over 35 years of public service experience. I'm Daniel Ziegler. I've been asking questions all my life, and on this show, I do my best to ask the questions that the public would like to know the answer to. The Safe Secure 360 podcast is intended to provide you, the listener, with information about current events and ongoing societal challenges to help make your life safer. Thank you for listening. This is the Safe Secure 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. Robert, thanks for sitting down and talking with us today about this. This is, it's hard to talk about. We've been talking about it in the office. We've been calling this political violence, and this is political violence, or maybe it's racist or cultural violence, but it's aimed at this group of people, and it's happening more and more in staggering numbers. According to the Anti-Defamation League, and after the start of the Israel-Hamas war in 2023, anti-Semitic incidents skyrocketed by 361% in 3 months. And these numbers keep going up every year. So help us understand what's going on where Jewish Americans are being targeted for violence and people are sort of rallying for that cause. Help us understand kind of the context of this story.
Certainly, historically, the Jewish community and Israel has been disproportionately targeted, affected, attacked over and over and over for decades, right? I don't think that it's really a focus in the United States against the individual person. I think it is a religious or sociological label of the Jewish people collectively that is the target. I think that people that cause these problems, whether it's a person's crime that happens or a property crime, a property that's owned by someone within this group, certainly is increasing. And you can certainly see right now what's happening in the Middle East since October 7th, when the Jewish people were attacked. This retaliation that is occurring now is unprecedented and is very serious. And it's a tough thing to deal with. The territorial disputes with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and in Israel, that's been going on for hundreds of years. It's not just going to stop tomorrow and everything is okay. It is generational. It is biological that one group hates another group. And that hate is real and it's strong. And although there have been attempts to have peace accords in the Middle East, it's tough when you have warring factions that have been fighting with each other 1,000 years to be able to just stop this. So I think we have to relate it to what's happening in the United States, really, and how can our Jewish American citizens that we live with and work with and go to restaurants with and just exist with, who are peaceful, How do we give them advice about how to be safer in society?
I read a statistic that 33% of Jewish Americans say that they've been the personal target of anti-Semitism, either in person or virtually, in the last year. 1 out of 3 this year has been a target of that. And that 56% of Jewish Americans surveyed said they altered their behavior out of fear of anti-Semitism. And that number goes up every year. So let's talk about that. If this is a story that's close to home, this affects you and your family, what changes? First of all, is it wise to make changes just based on this? Is that a fearful overreaction, or are there wise changes that you and your family could make right now that would keep you a little bit safer?
I am not Jewish. However, I can tell you that the Jewish people are a proud, resilient people. And I don't think that anything's going to change with that. I think that their goal is peace, and I think that they're being targeted from a lot of different sources all at one time. And I think that being a Jewish American today and the different levels of attacks that they may receive could be an email, or it could be a disruptive note, or something that was left at their home or in the workplace that is embarrassing or that is damaging to them by its nature. But then it moves on, and now we start having these individual violent events that affect individuals, families, and then companies. So that's where the real danger occurs. So I'm sensitive to the security needs of their synagogues and of the places they worship, and I'm sensitive to the places where they live if there is a large concentration of a certain faith in an area. That area should be on heightened alert, perhaps, and be aware of your surroundings. And if you see something, say something. It's so fundamental, but it's true. Report it and get the police involved, especially if it's a dangerous situation. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing the risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, safesecure360.com.
I want to explore that a little bit more. You mentioned the synagogues being on heightened alert. We've talked about places of worship in other episodes. What would it look like for a synagogue to make good, safe preparations just to keep their people safe? What would that look like? How would that play out? And who might they talk to about helping them with that?
Well, let's talk about any house of worship, just generically. Let's say you have a church or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever it is you have. It is a structure that you are going to populate with people, some who are members of that organization, some may be guests, some may be first-time people that have ever been there. So I think that starting with policy development within the church leadership is very important to talk about different things, like what if we had a disruptive event? What if we had an active shooter? What if we had someone driving in the parking lot dangerously? What if we had an explosive device that was discovered or went off? How would we respond to all of these things? So I think it starts in the parking lot. Do you have people out there that are helping people get in, and are your first opportunity to see something that may be unusual? If someone's wearing a disguise or someone has some other type of alarming article or thing with them that you see and notice, that is a very important message to send to others. I think as you get closer in and begin to enter the house of worship, I think that ushers or greeters or whoever they are that is part of the administration of the facility should be there to greet and observe people as they enter, looking for anything that's unusual. If you have law enforcement or security officers there, they should be in that area as well. And then now it's time to go in, and everybody goes in. There still should be some external people involved in viewing the environment of the house of worship, parking lot and areas, to be on the alert for someone who may enter late or who may by design come there after everybody's inside to do a disruptive act or to cause some harm, maybe to damage vehicles. So I think having an awareness of that while you're inside is very important. So when you're inside, what happens? Typically, everyone's facing one direction. Typically, it's very quiet, except for the person giving the message or perhaps the music, if there is music. Typically, it's a place of meditation, of focus, of looking straight ahead, of listening and relaxing and being there to learn. What a great opportunity when all those things are happening to disrupt that by an unknown or unplanned event that someone could do with a firearm or with an explosive device or with anything. The reaction time of that crowd dynamic is going to be slower until it becomes very fast. And then you have a chance, if you had 100, 200, 300 people in there, of positional asphyxiation or of some type of compression, trampling over people as they're all trying to get out. So when you have a disruptive event in a house of worship, it has multiple possibilities. So my advice to the Jewish American community is to think about and be aware of people that are coming in and note and broadcast anything that seems unusual or unsafe, or if they're saying something or if they have a sign or something, anything that's unusual. Report that to your leadership, report that to your security, and get them involved.
I hear you talking about policy again. You've said before it's a living document. And so just to sum up, it sounds like it's a good idea for a place of worship to relook at their policy right now, to make sure that they have preparations for all the events that everybody in the room can think of. And then whenever something odd or different gets reported to them, they can go back to their policy and update that policy given the new circumstances. That sounds really great to me because these things do happen. You mentioned fire, you've mentioned gun. I'm going to read a couple news stories. April, May, and June of this year. In April, a man goes and firebombs the house of a governor. His family, the governor's family, had 24 people to celebrate the first night of Passover. Luckily, no one was there, but a man threw an incendiary device into his house to try to injure him. In May, the next month, 2025, 2 young Israeli embassy staff members were killed by gunfire when they just walked outside a Jewish museum. And the suspect said, quote, "I did it for Palestine, I did it for Gaza." These people are killing people that had nothing to do with that war because they feel that they're related to it. And then one more story, these are horrible, but a man attacked a crowd using a makeshift flamethrower and incendiary devices. This is in June 2025. He injured 12 people, one of whom is an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor. He shouted, "Free Palestine," and attacked the crowd. And after confessing to the police, he told them he would do it again. You have said often before that there is a mental health problem associated with these acts of mass violence. These people are mistaking people just living their lives for people that are in a country in another part of the world. Can you help us understand what some of the mental health behavior going on with these suspects that are firebombing and shooting and killing and burning down houses? What's going on with people with that?
You should believe in something. That's up to you what it is. But in these instances that you're talking about, when it enters the political realm or the religious realm or basically the economic realm, those 3 areas draw out the worst in people. And there are true believers on both sides of all these issues. And when those beliefs and those agendas and those directives and those purposes and intents to influence other people to watch our cause, to support us, join us, support our cause, are legitimate. They can tell their story, they can get media attention, they can get donations, they can get people to join them and help them in the furtherance of their agenda. The problem happens when they engage in behavior that is unreasonable, or if someone is hurt or threatened to be hurt. That's when the believer now becomes exposed to criminal remedies, because they departed from the natural, normal, peaceful, let me influence you about our cause, maybe you'll join us or donate to us or be on our side, to the extreme. And the extreme is what gets the police attention. It works every time.
Well, thank you all for watching and listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this episode. This will keep you up to date with what we're up to, and it will help our channel grow and reach new people. Like we always say, there is safety in numbers. These are certainly extreme issues, and a lot of it, as I understand it, has to do with social media. There's a big anti-Semitic vibe on social media, especially in college campuses. It wasn't that way when I was in school. How do you know when you or someone you love is headed towards this mode of violence? All of these questions I'm aiming towards getting what do we do to stop this, but maybe start more personally. When you or someone you know is headed towards a violent path, how do you recognize that? And how can you stop that before it gets too late?
Your family, your friends, your work associates all may share common beliefs about something, whether it's religious or whether it's political. But all of a sudden, you start to notice within that group or family dynamic that one or two of these people now are more aggressively discussing that our message isn't being heard loud enough, or we have to get people's attention. We have to be more dramatic. We have to be more direct. We have to be more in your face to really have you understand, because you don't understand me. And you don't understand what I fear or feel. So I'm going to overdo it and give you a sample of what it feels like to be me, or my faith, or my people, or my group, or my country, or my suppressed group. So when you start departing from verbal and your presence somewhere, holding a flag, carrying a sign, all legitimate. When you start evolving into gas masks and bulletproof vests and trash can lids as shields and sticks and rocks, you now are becoming more radical in your delivery of your message that is intended to influence me or many people. And I think the media is kind of a polarizing media on one side or on the other, and they really ramp it up. You may have never been to Israel. You may have never been to the Gaza Strip. You may have never been to anywhere in the Middle East. But it looks like on some of these situations in these videos, you're willing to die for this. And I think that calling for the execution of the state of Israel is probably a bad idea. I think calling for the damage or killing Palestinians is a bad idea. But again, if you have a situational problem that is in conflict for hundreds of years, it's very difficult to snap your fingers or wave an olive branch and say, okay, now this is over. I sure wish it was, but I think there's a long road ahead. And then you introduce other terror states like Iran or the Houthis or whoever else supports the other side. Now you just ramp it all up again. So there needs to be, and I think there will be, some resolutions to this. I think that the Iranians are going to realize that there are overwhelming forces that are on the same page as allies that do support the Middle East peace, and I think that this will eventually solve itself, at least a little, in the short term.
So let's bring it back home a little bit more. If you are a family of the Jewish faith and you are just living your life, what steps? We have an episode about residential security, and we have episodes about congregation and houses of worship security. But what are some steps you could take that would help you and your family come up with your own safety policy and be more confident in your ability to keep your family safe? How could the just regular families help themselves out?
We certainly do security assessments for residential clients as well as industrial clients in churches and schools. Our website, SAFESECURE 360, proudly displays our clients. Some of them are not displayed by design. However, I think having a family plan about what to do in an emergency, it doesn't have to be a shooting, it could be a tornado or a hurricane, or it could be a fire. Talking with your family about what would we do, where would we go, would we stay here, would we go away? Do you have an alarm in the house? Is there a fireman in the house? Are there pets in the house? What would we do to prepare ourselves in our home if we were threatened externally? From a number of reasons. Having that conversation, having that plan, very important. Now, let's move into the workplace. What is your workplace violence policies, and how does that all work? We just did a podcast. I encourage our viewers to look at it on workplace violence, what it is, how to survive it, and what can you do to lessen the ability of risk. It's very powerful. So I think that employers need a very strong policy about what would we do if we had this happen in our office scenario. What would we do as an employer if we had an industrial setting, a manufacturing or distribution center? How would we respond, and how will we protect our employees? There needs to be policy about that. There needs to be drills about it. And I think the same thing is true for places of worship. What is your plan? Do you have one? If you don't have one, you need one. Let us help you build one. We're very good at it. Our clients tell us, and you can survive a catastrophic event. My advice is prepare for it.
The tagline of this show is there is safety in numbers. What you've described, every time I've asked you about what can people do to help themselves, whether it was a church or a family or a group of people, you've said just basically sit down and talk about it and come up with a good plan. So I think that's really encouraging to hear that can really alter your ability to make decisions. The two themes of this are there is this, the rate of political violence and people attacking other people or killing other people because of political or religious causes. That's going up. At the same time, there are people that are becoming more and more prepared for things by coming up with better policy. That's going up too. So there's this, we're in this odd place where political violence and social media is transferring this. I wish I knew how to ask a question about this, but there is something happening where the ability for someone to get caught up in a political or religious thing and then lose themselves in it and become violent is getting higher and higher. Is there anything else that we can understand or that you can share with us to help us maybe find a way to curb it some, or just to understand it more so that we can keep ourselves safe?
The public generally has a limited and short window of concentration. They do not focus very long on something. There may be some generalized stories, or it may be so significant that they talk about it, or it may be geographical where it affects them or close to them or their business or something like that. So these social media groups who are trying to have you become sympathetic to their cause keep ramping it up over and over and over, because the more violent, the more concentrated, the more well-attended, the more prolific it is at this event, the more media you're going to have there, obviously. So I think that it's incumbent upon both sides of a conflict like this to try to work towards a peaceful resolution and try to stop violence from happening. Protest all you want, do it reasonably, and don't let anybody get hurt. That's great. But when you start using these countermeasures, and when you start developing plans to harm others or to harm the police to achieve your objective, you are asking for big problems.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us about this. This is a hard subject to talk about. It's hard to hear about hate in America. It's hard for me to. And so our hope is that you just remember our tagline there is safety in numbers. If we can help you, your family, your place of worship, your friends, your workplace, just reach out to us. Go to SAFESECURE360.com, see what we're about, and see if we can help you feel more safe and secure. Do you have an idea? There's some question I want to ask that I haven't figured out how to ask yet. Do you know what it is? Leave it in the comments below. Do you have any ideas about how we can help people come together more rather than come against each other and be violent against each other? And if you haven't yet, go ahead and like and click subscribe below. That really helps us grow as a channel, and we just want more people to see this reasonable talk about how we can come together and learn together. Well, thank you so much for watching. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at SAFESECURE360.com.